And now our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the inaugural Federal Military Spouse Association Military Spouse Career Expo. I'm the USDA Deputy Secretary Jewel Bernal, and as a military spouse, and may I say, a very proud military spouse, I certainly understand firsthand the often overlooked sacrifices a family makes when a loved one is serving in our nation's armed forces. And the strong faces that we put on as military spouses don't always reflect the responsibilities that we face when our loved ones are deployed, often for long periods of time. But we continue to hold down the home front, raise the kids, kill the big hairy spiders that we're afraid of all by ourselves. And that's one I know from personal experience. We recognize that we are strong and simply want to be acknowledged for the many skills, talents, and gifts that we have to offer. And for our contributions, not only to our households, our local communities, and to the overall economy, but the fact is, we have a lot to offer. And as a USDA Military Spouse Association champion, I know how important it is that we acknowledge the very sacrifices by offering the support in any way that we can. And that means we're raising awareness of the need to employ the strong, hardworking individuals that we are recognizing today. The USDA Military Spouse Association understands that military spouses face unique challenges when trying to pursue a career. But when we highlight the talents of these family members, skills heightened by our unique circumstances, we can honor the way that we too serve our country. This mission of gratitude and support extends across the Biden-Harris administration, and that's why we have a very, very special treat today. And we are especially honored to have First Lady Jill Biden share some words with us on why our military spouses matter to the strength and to the vitality of this country. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Biden's remarks. So Dr. Biden, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hello, welcome to the first ever Federal Interagency Military Spouse Career Expo. Like all of us, our service members love their families with all that they are. So when their spouses struggle, our troops hurt with them. We can't expect to keep our best and brightest if our service members are forced to choose between their love of country and their love of family. That's why military spouse employment is a national security imperative. Spouses, all of you, deserve opportunities to do the work you love, to provide for your families. You deserve to be proud of your employment history, even if it's not a straight line. You deserve better than starting from the bottom every few years, despite your education and experience. That's why we started Joining Forces, my White House initiative to support our military families. From launching the Federal Military Family Workforce Network to today's Expo, we want the federal government to be an employer of choice for military spouses. Your loyalty, your tenacity, and your commitment are unmatched. and employers must rise to the example you set and recognize the talent you bring. These 15 agencies are here because they want to hire you. Your value is immeasurable, and we want to make sure that you are able to show the world how brightly you can shine. Thank you for your service. God bless you and your families.
It's an honor to mark the very first Federal Interagency Military Spouse Career Expo, and for it to be hosted by the Military Spouse Association on behalf of USDA. I'm very proud of the Military Spouse Association. In less than a year, it's grown to nearly 400 members and demonstrated meaningful advocacy for military spouses. Our military is the envy of the world, protecting our nation from threats at home and abroad. The men and women who serve it deserve our profound gratitude, as do their spouses, who also make incredible sacrifices to keep our nation safe. Military spouses and families are the foundation on which our military community and national security depend. Military spouses possess incredible strength and uncommon resilience. They understand the incredible power of personal sacrifice as they balance family responsibilities while their loved ones serve their country far away. But despite their profound contributions and unique talents, military spouses face unfortunate challenges in the employment sector. We know that military spouses are a versatile workforce. They have knowledge and skills and experience and, of course, the fortitude to contribute to the betterment of American life in much the way that their spouses do. However, for far too long, they've gone ignored by the job market. Military spouses face the highest unemployment rates in the country at 22%. And what's more, those who are employed experience a 26% wage gap compared to their civilian counterparts. This is unacceptable. The power of this expo is that it works to ensure that the best in our country have access to the well-paying and meaningful work they deserve. As a nation, we owe military families a debt of gratitude. Military members and their spouses are the backbone of our national security, and we owe it to them to break down barriers to employment by creating inclusive policies. The Biden-Harris administration understands this. Our commitment to supporting military families manifests itself today and in the Joining Forces initiative spearheaded by First Lady Jill Biden, which strengthens support for military families in 3 critical areas: military spousal employment and entrepreneurship, military child education, and the well-being of military families. We want military spouses and families to thrive in all areas of life, and for many that means a fulfilling and stable career. Events like this one, with participation from so many governmental partners, including the Departments of Labor and Energy, Housing and Urban Development, and State Department, FEMA, and more, demonstrate the whole of government commitment to advancing military spousal employment. All of the federal agencies present today are part of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program as well. Now, this opportunity forgives student loans after 10 years of service in federal, state, local, or tribal governments. I know folks at USDA have taken advantage of this great program, and I hope it's something that you consider as you discuss employment opportunities today. Around 10% of USDA's workforce is veterans and military spouses, including our own USDA Deputy Secretary, Dr. Jewel Bernal, who serves as the Military Spouse Association's employee organization champion. She is a strong voice for military spouses because she has been in their shoes. She understands the sacrifices they make to support our troops. Military service is something we at USDA understand because so many from rural communities go on to serve our nation, and many veterans become farmers after leaving active service. The talents, the resiliency, the commitment of our military members and spouses is always welcome at USDA. Our department is a great place to work, and we're committed to making it an even better place to work. We'll soon be releasing a new diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility plan that will outline our goal of creating an inclusive culture, hiring veterans, and increasing our support for employees with disabilities. We're listening to our employees and working to make USDA that serves everyone in a way that is meaningful to them. I celebrate the achievements of the Military Spouse Association. Organizations like this are critical to morale and inclusion within USDA. And I'm proud of the incredible work you're doing and congratulate you on this inaugural Career Expo. I want to again thank you for your great service to our great nation and wish you the best of luck.
A sincere and special thank you to our Military Spouse Association champion, Deputy Secretary Bernal, the First Lady Jill Biden, and USDA Secretary Bill Seck for the empowering remarks to our first ever Federal Interagency Military Spouse Career Expo event. Military spouses and military spouse community, thank you so much for being here. You are on your journey to a federal job, and there's no better place to start than being here today. My name is Christine Tomkus, co-founder and president of our USDA Military Spouse Association employee organization and fellow military spouse of over 15 years. My husband's active duty Air Force, and we're currently stationed at Joint Base McGuire-Dick Lakehurst in New Jersey with our 4 children. When my husband joined the military, I was very career focused, which led me to take what I can get and shoot for the stars, like all of us do. And it's not very easy trying to raise children and manage your spouse's unpredictable work schedule with TDYs, deployments, long nights, and unpredictable scheduling conflicts. Throughout my husband's career, we moved 6 times and I held 11 different jobs. It took me over 13 years to obtain a federal position, although I had worked on behalf of military and military spouses in various roles throughout most of my career. It was one of the most memorable feelings to hear the words, "You're hired," from USDA 2 years ago when I at long last received an offer for a federal job. But it was well worth the wait. Fast forward, and now we have a robust Military Spouse Association employee organization here with USDA to help support our military spouse community. The support our co-founder and Vice President Bridget Dea and I have received from USDA leadership has been overwhelming, and we're grateful to bring this event to you today. We're ecstatic to unite with 15 other federal departments and agencies to make history today and bring you the opportunity to directly network with these agencies' HR teams, ask questions directly with the Office of Personnel Management experts, and have your federal resume reviewed by none other than the career coaches from the Spouse Education and Career Opportunities Program during our Career Expo session this afternoon. This morning, we're going to hear from the experts in the federal military spouse employment world directly from the Office of Personnel Management and the Department of Defense. As First Lady Jill Biden mentioned in her remarks, we want the federal government to be an employer of choice for the military spouses. At the end of today's session, we'll provide you some details on how to access each agency's Career Expo room to network and learn about opportunities. We are so excited you're here today. We really hope you enjoy your day, and we wish you the best of luck with your federal job journey. To kick off our morning sessions, I'd like to welcome and introduce Amy Bontrager and Alyssa Bookwater, who are co-directors of the Military Spouse Program with the Federal Military Family Workforce Network.
Thank you so much for having us, and wonderful to see so many people logging on today. My name is Amy Bontrager, and I have been serving in government for over 5 years, which it took me a minute to get into government. And so hopefully for events like today, we are going to change that narrative. I'd just like to begin with just thanking Christine and the entire USDA team that believed in this and saw this as a priority and a need for our community and all the agencies that are joining us today. The Federal Military Family Workforce Network started about a year ago with the support of Dr. Biden and her team at Joining Forces, in addition to IVAC, identifying this need of how are we connecting military spouses who are currently serving in federal government. Oftentimes, as mentioned, military spouses, we have PCSs and these moves, but how are we actually working to retain and have upward mobility for military spouses in government? We set out to not only connect military spouses in agencies, examples of work that is happening at USDA, how do we scale that across government, but also help military spouses connect to other agencies. So if a PCS was happening, there might not be a job for them at their home agency, but they would have a greater community to connect outside their agency for possible job opportunities. Alyssa in a moment will talk a little bit about what we've been working on this year and what's ahead. But I also wanted to share that there was this, this opportunity for this connection. And so what's happening today, we hope, and we are challenging our agencies as well, of how do we continue to create events and experiences like this, where agencies are actually competing for military spouse talent. We have this workforce gap across government, and there's this great opportunity to access talent in our community. Alyssa, would you like to share a little bit about what we've been working on this year?
Thank you, Amy, and then thank you for that introduction. So 2022 and the normal year, not the fiscal year, isn't even over yet. And it has been a wild, amazing, and tremendous ride. So the Federal Military Family Workforce Network kicked off this year with finalizing what was our initial core team. So in addition to Amy and myself, we also have two phenomenal deputy directors, Marquisa Gillespie and Courtney Severino. And so I think you both are on, but shout out to you and thank you for everything. Amy and I and the team have also been working across government to figure out how we can further bring us together. Communications, different methodologies, whether it's Zoom or Teams, collaborative tools has been tough, even in the remote hybrid world that we all exist in today. So two things that we've undertaken. We have worked with Lisa Nelson and OPM's Open Opportunities to stand up the very first affinity group on USA Open Opportunities. And this is a place where anybody with a .mil, .gov, federal employee or contract who identifies and supports our mission can join and hear about events across agency, who can post new discussion topics. And that is really bringing us together as a source within the federal ecosystem to push our mission. We also stood up a LinkedIn network that has, a LinkedIn group that I think has over 800 members. And so we will share the links out later, but if you get a chance and you're eligible, please join our LinkedIn. Please join our Open Opportunities. It is a phenomenal way to connect, empower, and to continue to grow this amazing community across government. So in addition to our two platforms that we stood up, we've also been working with amazing military spouse ERGs across government. So not only Christine and the military spouse group at USDA, we've also worked with Department of State, and we've also worked with USAID, and there are many others to start formulating what are best practices to stand up employee resource groups for military spouses. We all have full-time jobs. We all have many other responsibilities in addition to doing this, but it is so important as we empower to grow the US government as an employee for choice for our group. We also held our very first in-person event in Washington, DC. Later in 2023, we hope to launch our second, and we also hope to launch some additional in-person events across the government. So if you are interested in hosting, please connect with Amy and I, and we can share some marketing materials, best practices, and how we went about making our first event a success. 2023 is going to be an amazing year, especially with this tremendous community and support that we have here. And Amy, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Alyssa. And on that note, we're excited because a part of this and such a huge part in the conversation around military spouse employment is OPM. And so on that note, we'd like to kick it over to the director of OPM.
Hello, I'm Karen Ahuja, Director of the Office of Personnel Management. OPM is the human resources wing of the federal government. We implement policies across the government focused on hiring, benefits, professional growth, and so much more. To every military service member participating today, thank you for your service. And to every military spouse and family member, thank you for all that you do right alongside your loved ones in uniform. The burdens of joining our armed forces don't just fall on the service member alone, which is why President Biden just declared November National Veterans and Military Families Month. Parents, spouses, siblings, and children in military families give so much. Whether it's the peace of mind as they worry about their loved one's safety, or the personal time they would otherwise spend together, the friends they leave behind every time they move, or the stable career, salary, and benefits they would enjoy if they could stay in one place. But if you are a husband or wife of a service member looking for the next step in your career, one that provides the stability of a reliable paycheck, even if you move, and one that values the unique talents you offer, whether you serve as the rock of your family at home, work in a high-demanding career with advanced degrees, or anything in between, the federal government has incredible opportunities for you. The OPM team is happy to give you information on how the Military Spouse Hiring Authority works, how to write a resume for federal employment, and how to apply for jobs under the Military Spouse Employment Authority to find your place in the federal workforce and share your talents. OPM makes it easy for a military spouse to search for opportunities on USAJobs. There's a hiring path on the job search page just for military spouses that lists current job openings. Some of these include human resources, accounting, records management, contracting, administrative, scientific, and many more. There's no other sector that allows its workforce to reach out and change the world around them quite like the federal government. And if you are a military spouse, then public service is already in your DNA. It's a part of who you are, and this country is already better off for it. Our expanded military spouse hiring regulation is one more way for this grateful nation to say thank you for the sacrifices you make. And it's one more way we can welcome the very best, brightest, and diverse minds into the federal workforce. So join us, please, and enjoy the rest of the event today.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Glenn, and I'm a Senior Human Resource Specialist with the Office of Personnel Management. I want to welcome each and every one of you, and I'm also proud to say that I'm a military spouse. I started my career in the federal government as a GS3 in Mannheim, Germany. I was fortunate enough to also come to the States and be able to be employed by Department of Defense with the Air Force. I've worked for many Department of Defense agencies. I've worked for Department of Treasury, and my ultimate goal dream when I came into the government as a GS3 was I had my vision set on OPM. Well, I'm here, and I want to say to you, please continue. You are the best, the brightest, and we need you. There are many military spouses. They're very supportive, and anything that we at OPM, the OPM team can do, this is what we're here for. So let's get started and start with our presentation. The non-competitive appointment of certain military spouses. Let's go to the next slide. We're going to do an overview. The non-competitive hiring authority for positions in the competitive service, eligible spouses can apply for permanent, temporary, and term positions. Temporary and term positions are just that. They are limited in their time, and it could be between 2 to 4 years. In some situations, a temporary or term position can be extended, and a permanent position is just that, permanent, no ending. Applicants must apply and be found qualified for positions on OPM's USAJobs site. Let's go to the next slide. Now we're going to go over the eligibility, the eligible military spouses, the category of spouses. The spouses that are married to current active duty military members, spouses of armed force members who retired and or were released with a disability rating of 100% from the Department of the Veteran Affairs or from the branch of the Armed Forces. And the unremarried widows or widowers of armed force members killed while serving on active duty. And as a pause, killed on active duty does not mean that the individual, the military member's death had to be due to combat. It could be due to a disease, an unfortunate accident. It's just the mere fact that the unremarried widow or widower of the armed force member is still married to that armed force member. Let's do the next slide. Now we're going to go over the eligibility. So if the eligibility is based on active duty military status, you must be currently married to the active duty military member. You may receive unlimited, permanent, temporary, or term appointments. I want to stress this part because only currently right now, the only spouses that are eligible for unlimited permanent appointments are the spouses that are married to current active duty military members. This was replaced with spouses who had to PCS, as we all know, relocating spouses. The law currently changed, and now the eligibility criteria is for any spouse that's currently married to an active duty military member. There's no geographic restriction for these eligible spouses when applying or receiving employment. Next slide. Now we're going to do eligibility based on the 100% disability. Spouses of service members who retired with a disability rating at the time of retirement of 100%. Spouses of retired or released members who have a disability rating from the Department of Veteran Affairs or the applicable branch of service. There's no geographic location restriction for these eligible spouses. However, these spouses are limited to one permanent appointment. There's no limitation on temporary or term appointments. Next slide. Now, the last category, if your eligibility is based on death of a service member, the service member must have been killed while on active duty. You must be the unmarried widow or widower of the deceased service member. There's no geographic restriction for these eligible spouses. And these spouses are also limited to one permanent appointment, but there's no limitation on temporary or term appointments. So just to make sure that I want to make sure everyone is following, as I stated just a little bit earlier, spouses who are currently married to active duty military members, these are the only spouses under this hiring authority that can receive more than one permanent appointment. Next slide. Now we're going to go over the proof of your eligibility. Eligibility that's based on marriage to an active duty military member, the spouse must provide documentation verifying the service member is currently on active duty military service, and proof of marriage to the service member. Next slide. If eligibility is based on the 100% disability, the spouse must provide proof the service member was retired, released, or discharged from active duty due to a service-connected disability, and documentation of the service member's 100% disability, and proof of marriage to the service member. Next slide. If the eligibility is based on death of the service member, then the spouse must provide proof of marriage to the service member and documentation of the member's death while on active duty. And again, as I stated, while on active duty does not mean that that service member died in combat. Next slide. Eligibility that's based on the 100% disability, the spouse must provide the proof that the service member was retired or released. I believe we did this slide. I apologize. Next slide. Yes. Now we're at our references. This hiring authority is found in Title V, United States Code, Section 3330D. It has further been enhanced by Executive Order 13832, and it is currently in OPM's regulations at 5 CFR 315612. Any questions or inquiries? Below is our email inquiry box at esemployee.internet@opm.gov. I want to thank you all so very much for joining me today to learn about the hiring authority for military spouses. Now I would like to introduce you to our next speaker, Mrs. Monica Grant Gage from the Department of Defense. Thank you again so much.
Hello, everyone. I hope so far you were able to understand and retain that information that Michelle provided. She was speaking about our non-competitive hiring authority. I will be discussing the Military Spouse Preference Program. So, welcome to our first Interagency Expo. Like many of us speaking today, I too am a military spouse. Excuse me, I started my employment with DoD many years ago on a temporary appointment. It wasn't until we were assigned overseas and returned to the US that I was able to get permanent DoD employment. And at that time, that was the only way that you had an eligibility. We have tons of eligibilities now that we did not have back then. Today, I am going to cover the DoD Military Spouse Preference Program that we normally would call the MSP program. So hopefully by the time I finish, you'll be able to better understand the differences between our program and the programs that Michelle just went over for you. Next slide, please. In 1986, Public Law 99-145, codified in the 10 U.S.C. 1784, directed the Secretary of Defense to establish a program that would provide employment preference to the spouses of active duty members of the U.S. Armed Forces. That includes the Coast Guard, who relocate to accompany their spouse, their military sponsor, on a PCS move to a new duty station. With that, the Military Spouse Preference Program was created as a sub-program or as a part of the DoD Priority Placement Program. Today, I will discuss your MSP eligibility criteria and the process used by military spouses exercising their preference via the PPP, utilizing an application-based process. Now, understand that though you may be applying under the application process, that doesn't mean that our office is not still tracking spouse employment and making sure that you get the opportunities that you deserve. I'll close by highlighting the differences between the non-competitive hiring authority and the Military Spouse Preference Program. The DoD Military Spouse Preference Program, as I said earlier, applies to spouses of military active duty members of the Armed Forces, the U.S. Coast Guard, and full-time National Guard, who desire priority consideration for appropriated fund positions in the accepted and competitive services. Excuse me. At the GS-15 level and below or equivalent. The regulations provide preference to qualified spouses of members of the armed forces in hiring for positions that are being filled under competitive procedures, that being a merit promotion process or a competitive examining process. Spouses must be determined among the best qualified in order to be considered for a position using their military spouse preference. That means that the spouse must be as qualified as the lowest ranking competitive candidate that can be sent to a hiring manager for potential selection. So just so you understand what that means is the qualifications and the experience you have must be at a level above minimum qualifications. So you may apply using the non-competitive agency eligibilities for positions that you would not necessarily have to be best qualified for. But if you're applying for the MSP program, you will need to be best qualified. So next slide, please. One of the first things that we suggest you do is you create your USAJobs account on their website. We're going to encourage you to apply to a vacancy announcement, and that would be covered under our priority placement DoD Military Spouse Preference eligibility. You should see that eligibility when you're choosing an eligibility to apply under in the vacancy announcement. Make sure that you have a completed PPP self-certification checklist, because it must be included every time you apply and you wish to use your military spouse preference. Other pertinent documents that you might need to include are a narrative resume, proof of your marriage, which is a certified copy of your marriage certificate, and a copy of your PCS orders. Unlike the non-competitive eligibility, it is a requirement that you will have moved on a PCS move in order to seek your eligibility as a spouse preference eligible. That's different from the non-comp requirements. As I said before, you'll need to rank among the best qualified for consideration as a MSP. You need to make sure that you're monitoring your inbox and that you respond to any job offers within the specified time frame. Typically, I believe it's approximately 2 days that you might have to respond to any job offer that you might receive. So you need to make sure you're monitoring your inbox. We have information available on our DoD Civilian Careers website at the link shown on the bottom of this slide. And that is a great place for you to go to seek information on how to apply if you're not familiar with that process, and or jobs. If you're looking for specific jobs, you can get information on that website as well. Next slide, please. Please keep in mind that spousal preference does not apply if the act of granting the preference would result in the displacement of a current employee of the activity, and it would impact them in a way that they would either have to go into a lower grade, be separated from a temp or term perm position in the DoD. We do not require that an employee be displaced so a military spouse can be placed. Additionally, preference is not applicable if granting it violates statutes or regulations governing veterans' preference or nepotism. So if you are offered a position in your spouse's chain of command, you need to make sure you make that known when you're looking at the job offer and contact that office to say, okay, we may have a conflict. This particular location is, this particular job is in my spouse's chain of command. And then a determination can be made as whether you can still take that position. Don't worry, because if it is determined that there's a nepotism issue with you taking that job, you will be offered the opportunity to be considered again. You just won't get that particular job, but that's okay. That happens, right? Military spouses whose sponsors are within 6 months of their tour of duty rotation date may be non-selected for permanent positions. We don't want managers to take on a military spouse and be frustrated by our program because they've just gotten you on the rolls, they've just gotten you trained, and then you are having to leave again with your military sponsor. That's why we have that policy in place with regards to placing a military spouse within 6 months of rotation. Next slide, please. Military spouse preference priority status terminates upon the acceptance or declination of a permanent position in the federal service within the commuting area of the sponsor's new duty station. And that would include if you are placed in a remote work position, that too would terminate your military spouse preference until you PCS again. And then you're given another opportunity to use your preference. Now, of course, if you take a job with a non-appropriated fund facility or in the military exchange services, that too counts as federal employment. And whether you used your spouse preference or not, if you get a permanent position, it will terminate your eligibility for spouse preference. Upon the loss of your spousal preference status, whether it be because of a death or a divorce or your sponsor's retirement or separation from active duty, is also a time that your MSP terminates. Or if you fail to meet the immediate appointability requirements. And by immediate appointability requirements, they are normally identified on the job offer that you receive. And this means the spouse must complete all pre-employment criteria, such as timely completion of a physical, if one is required for the job, or completion or timely submission of fingerprints. That is what we mean by being immediately appointable and being able to meet the criteria for the position. Next slide, please. Okay, as promised, I said that I would talk to you about about the differences between the military spouse hiring authorities and the military spouse preference program. So let's look at this slide. It says that the military spouse hiring authority is federal-wide. Our DoD preference program is only applicable to DoD. The military spouse hiring authority does not extend any preference in employment, and it uses the minimum qualified criteria and the hiring authority. Our MSP program extends preference in hiring if, as I said before, you are determined best qualified. Additionally, the spouse must be appointable under a hiring authority. So let's say that you have your non-competitive hiring authority or reinstatement authority or VRA authority. You have to have that type of hiring authority along with your MSP preference in order to be hired using your preference. all right? It's twofold. The eligibility for the military spouse hiring authority, spouses of course, of what we've kind of talked about, spouses of the Armed Forces active duty member, and spouses of a disabled Armed Forces members, or spouses of deceased Armed Forces members. And the eligibility for the MSP program is that the spouse must have relocated with the active duty member via PCS. And remember, we told you, Michelle told you that the military spouse hiring authority for active duty spouses has at this time an unlimited eligibility. In other words, you can use it for multiple times. Our military spouse preference program is a one-time good deal at that duty location. Of course, once you PCS, you are able to use your military spouse preference again. Next slide, please. These are some comments and advice offered by military spouses from different components about their efforts to seek employment with DoD. I think one of the most important words of advice received, provided by an Army spouse is to be flexible and don't get discouraged. Oftentimes, when I was PCSing around with my spouse, it was so frustrating to find a new job and take care of the kids and do all those other things that as spouses who stay, who get the ball rolling when we PCS, when our military spouses begin working immediately upon arrival. So I would also like to add that it may take a while to get into the system. As many of us have mentioned, I had to go overseas to be able to come back and use that eligibility to get employed. Michelle started out as a GS3. I started out on a temporary job, as I said, as a GS5. I went down to a 4, then I got back to a 5, and I was able to get steady increases in my grade after I got a permanent position. By that time, my husband was already looking at retirement. So just remember that. A Navy spouse said, consider volunteer work to bolster your resume. And that's a good point. If you have not had a lot of experience in the workforce, by all means, bolster that resume with volunteer skills that you can develop on the job. That experience still counts, and you can put it on your resume for consideration when you're trying to get a job. An Air Force spouse recommended networking. Join local clubs or organizations when you arrive at a new duty location. Other spouses may have ideas that you had not thought of, and that's a great way to network among yourselves, to get that job opportunity, or to find out what other spouses may recommend for you to help you get a job. A Marine spouse has good advice on helping to adjust to a new location. Having your own job, friends, and time away from the house will get you more acclimated in your new area. And a Coast Guard spouse suggested establishing career goals. So once you establish them, if you do your best to stick to them, hopefully you'll achieve what you need to achieve. Another word of advice that we often provide from our office to our military spouse preference eligibles is don't apply to a job you're not willing to accept. Remember, spouse preference is lost for your current duty station if you accept or decline a federal employment. You may want to seek non-federal employment until a federal job in your career field or that you are qualified for is announced. Also, our office is contacted weekly, and I mean weekly, regarding new spouse employment initiatives that Congress is looking to implement. Just know that military spouse employment is a high priority for the administration, and they are looking at multiple ways to help you find employment. Next slide, please. This slide covers links to various information, the first one being a USAJobs search for DoD positions. We have our DoD career website that I mentioned earlier. We have the USAJobs Help Center that can help you set up your criteria to get notified when jobs that you're interested in are announced, and they can send it directly to your email. And then lastly, the Office of Personnel Management has FAQs on federal employment on their website. And they have some good information, and they answer questions about how to get into the federal employment. Next slide, please. This slide is telling you about our Expo, our breakout session that will start at 1 o'clock this afternoon. And our goal is to start at 1, 2, and 3. In each of those sessions, we will do a presentation, and then that will be followed by a question and answer session. We will open the mic for the first 15 minutes of the Q&A and allow you to ask your questions to us directly. At the same time, you'll be able to put your questions in our chat function to allow you to ask us more specific questions if you don't want to get on the mic with us. We understand. Okay, so now you'll know that we'll answer your questions in our open forum in the afternoon. Okay, next slide, please. And I will now turn the mic over to Adrian Williams, who will conduct a workshop titled What to Know Regarding Federal Resumes. Adrian, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Adrian Williams, and I'm a Senior Program Manager with Talent Acquisition, Classification, and Veterans Program here at OPM. And I want to thank each and every one of you again for joining us for the Federal Interagency Military Spouse Career Expo today. And I just want to let you know, I myself spent 25 years over 25 years in the military, had a spouse that was very supportive of my moves, but I understand your frustration when it comes to spouses moving from place to place to place. And the program that I'm heading right now, I see a lot of value in it, and I see the importance of this program because it does help and open up the doors for military spouses. And I'm hoping by doing this presentation today, writing your resume, this presentation, it's going to give you some more insight of how you can be more effective, be more efficient, and really hone your resume down to meeting the qualifications of a job when you're looking at the opportunity that you have. Now, again, our time is a little limited, so I may go a little bit faster on some of the slides, but I will get you the information that you need. And if you have questions at the end, we will be having a breakout session after this afternoon that you can come and ask those questions during that session also. So let's get started. Next slide. So what we're going to talk about here today is understanding the Military Spouse Special Hiring Authority. These first two slides we will probably go over because Ms. Glenn, actually, she just went over this information. And I think it's information that if we have any more questions, we can go over this during our breakout session this afternoon. How to make your resume marketable, which is a very important aspect when you are building your resume for the federal workforce. Identifying the key components to assist you in writing your resume, simple steps to building a results-driven resume, and we'll hit the understanding the resume, USAJobs resume builder as we start to wrap up this session here. And again, the Military Spouse Hiring Authority, Ms. Glenn went over these first two slides, next two slides really, that we, the eligibility for military spouses. Next slide. Next slide. And the next slide. So where we're going to start is steps for writing an effective resume. And this is a very important ideology you need to remember, because your resume, this is your federal application. This is the tool that you're going to actually craft, develop, and make that's going to market you to the agencies or to your employer. What it has to do is it has to convey your qualifications for the jobs. It should be able to provide and show that you can provide the immediate results to the job and the skill sets they're looking for. And it is one of those tools that this can be your first and only impression you have for making an impression to this employer. And understanding that this document is going to help determine the qualifications and the best qualified candidates in this hiring process. Next slide. Now there's different types of resume. The two that we'll talk about today is the private sector and the federal sector. Now, one thing to remember, your private sector resumes, those are those resumes that you were kind of trained to make. It's usually no more than 2 pages. It's not much detail. It's a lot of bullets and yes, I did this is how I did it, but it doesn't take that extra step to show what you did and results that you produce. It's usually, again, it is a marketing tool, but it's not one of those tools that gives the needed information for you when you're applying for federal jobs. And another thing about private sector resumes, you can add innovative designs like the borders, the different fonts. And I know some of the new resumes I've seen, they will have remarks about what somebody thought about you, what somebody gave you on a reference. And that's all good, but that's not something that that's going to be built on and utilized in a federal resume. So one of the things that federal resumes are usually a little bit greater in detail. They're going to be a little bit longer in length. What they are going to do is demonstrate the quality of your experience. They're really going to dig down into the complexity of the work because they're going to ask you to have certain skill sets and certain core competencies when you're applying for this job. And it's going to reflect how your experience relates to the position you are applying for, what we call targeting your resume to the job itself. And the preferred format for federal resume is a reverse chronological format. And what it will do is integrate your accomplishments into the resume itself. It's not going to, you're going to answer questions with your resume that may be asked in the job announcement itself. Next slide. So there's 2 types of resumes that I think most of us have probably reviewed. The first one is a functional. This is a resume where you'll list all of your qualifications up top and then the dates that you have. This really is not a good resume to answer the questions of the specialized experience. And do you have that 1 year specialized experience? Because all it does is say, here's my experience, here's the dates I worked here. And it really doesn't go into detail. Again, the recommended, it's a reverse chronological resume where it's going to be, you're going to take the time and your resume should be a significant length to show your qualification. It shouldn't, it is going to be longer, but it doesn't have to be a dissertation. You're going to, again, look to see, it's going to demonstrate your specific skills and relevant experience that you have in that certain job. And even if you have to go back a few years, that's okay. We recommend no more than 10 years, but if you have experience past 10 years, you want to include that in your resume writing. Me, myself, I had to go back 15 years because there was 15 years that related to the job that I was actually applying for. So that's okay, but you don't, if it's anything beyond that 10 years, if it doesn't relate, you don't necessarily have to add it to your resume. And again, your resume is going to reflect that you have the knowledge, skills, and abilities they're looking for in the job. And that will be explained in a upcoming presentation after the break by Ms. Deshawn King, who will go into the USAJobs element of it and really start to break down about the job announcement itself. And one thing to remember, spelling and grammar matter. And that's one thing that you have to remember. This is a document that you have to make sure it's concise, it's detailed oriented, it has the right grammar, the right spelling, and it's projecting you as the best candidate for this position. So just understand that when you're building this, you want to make sure you're detailing the information that is important, that is relevant to the job, and that can support all that they're asking for in this job itself. Next slide. Again, some more resume tips. Using plain language, avoid the jargon. Being a prior military member, one of the things I had to learn when I was coming out is to avoid the jargon, the acronyms that actually are associated with some of the jobs that I had. Highlight relevant experience and education if it's applicable to the job. State the facts. Please do not exaggerate. If you did it, say you did it. If you didn't do it, don't exaggerate the facts, because it may come out when you're doing an interview that they'll ask you a question and you have no idea what they may be talking about. Again, in a federal resume, you're looking to explain what you did, how you did it, and if you made a difference. So for me, it's always go with, yes, I did it. This is how I did it. And here's the results I produced. Again, yes, I did it. This is how I did it. Here's the results I produced. It becomes a clear, concise, and detailed answer to any of the requirements or eligibility requirements or experience or the knowledge, skills, and abilities they're looking to actually talk to you about. You're showcasing yourself and clearly show that you have that knowledge, those skills, and those abilities for the job that you're actually applying for. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, some more tips. This is referring to the resume builder. Oh, go back one more. Oh, there you go. The first tip is you may create to 5 customized resumes based on the extent and variety of your experience. We're talking about the resume builder, which is the tool that when we get to it, I'll kind of go a little bit more in depth with time permitting about how that tool is such an important aspect of you building your federal resume. What you do not want to do is include any no PII, personal identifiable information, and don't include photographs on your resume. Not needed, not required, and they don't want to see that information on your resume. And again, the resume builder, resumes created in the resume builder uploaded from your own files. Now, one quick thing, the resume builder is a tool. It helps you actually put information into the system based on off of your requirements, and it's helping you shape your resume. And it's going to make you input information that you may not already have on your resume. So it's a great tool to use to initially start your resume building and crafting and development, because it's going to make you put information in a certain format that agencies are looking for. And you don't have to wonder if it's in the right format, or did you include this or did you not. It's going to make you put information in there that's relevant to the jobs itself. And one other thing, there are some agencies that's the only way they will take your resume is through the resume builder. So it's a tool to use, and it's a tool that will help you correctly craft and develop your resume as you go forward. And again, carefully, I can't say it enough, make sure you're checking your spelling and grammar as you go through this process. Next slide. So the areas we're going to talk about that are going to be key components of your resume, they're going to come from the job announcements itself. And those areas are your duties, the requirements, the qualifications, and the occupational application questionnaire, which is linked to the job announcement itself. So what we're going to do is real quickly go over those specific areas and the importance of what you can see, how each one can lead and actually provide you the information you're going to write about on your resume. Next slide. So again, this is the job announcement from USAJobs. You click on it, this is where you're gonna start your whole process of looking at things that you can actually build for your resume itself. So the first, again, this is a budget analyst position. It's for, I think it's for, I can't see the name, I think it's USDA. It says USDA job announcement that for budget analyst that I actually picked out. And as you can see, it has all the information here about who can qualify and who can actually apply to the job and eligible to apply for job. And you can see military spouses is right there. Next slide. So the first section we're going to talk about is duties. This is where you're actually going to start looking at and make sure that this is a job that you can qualify for, and this is a job that you want to qualify for. Do you have the necessary knowledge, skills, and abilities that they're asking for? Have you performed any of these tasks? Are you performing these tasks currently right now? And it just lists down all the things that they're looking for you to be able to do in the job. Here's what you will be doing in the job, but you want to ask yourself, have I already done these things? And have I put that information on my resume itself? Next slide. Next slide. Next segment down in that job announcement will be your requirements. These are the conditions of employment. One of the things is U.S. citizen. It goes selective service. Do you have your resume and supporting documentations? If you're a military spouse, do you have all the necessary documents that are required under the Military Spouse Non-Competitive Hiring Authority? Do you have all that information? If you are currently in the federal government, it gives you requirements for that. And it also goes down to say, okay, you may be asked to drive, so a driver's license may be required. You may be wearing a uniform. And they talk about the probationary period and pretty much spell it out so that there's no question about what will be required of you as you go through this process. But it's one of those areas I always tell people, make sure you read it. I always tell people reading is fundamental. You have to read this document, you have to read it. I say go back and read it again. After you do that, go back again and read it again to make sure you understand all the aspects of the job itself and the job announcement. Next slide. Right here's your qualifications. What you're going to find here is what the job requirements are. And what you'll find in this area right here is a specialized experience. And what they're talking about when we say specialized experience, they're referring to the experience that will equip you with the particular knowledge, skills, and abilities to perform successfully in the position. And it's related to the job that you're looking to fill. What you'll also notice that this is a GS-9 position. But what they're telling you, you have to have the specialized experience, again, the knowledge, skills, and abilities of a GS-7. So they're breaking down what a GS-7 does in the federal government, and they're giving you the breakdown, like comparing and presenting figures, formulating budget estimates and prepare justifications, track and analyze brief management of data analysis, and they continue on. Now, they're giving you two ways that you can qualify for this position here. You can either have the experience, or you can actually have education based on your education. And if you go into the job, they will ask you how you are applying. Are you trying to qualify educational wise, or are you trying to qualify through their experience? Or either you can actually say, I'm trying to do both. So it's just being able to read it, understand what they're asking. And now you kind of have an idea where I have to target my experience, what I have to be able to talk about on my resume to actually qualify, be one of those top candidates as I go through it, because they're breaking it down for you so that you can see it, understand it, and you'll be able to make sure that you're writing and targeting what you can do, how you can do it, and the results you produced in your job and in your career, and it aligns with what they're looking for, not just giving me a resume and say, here's my resume, find me a slot. Next slide. Again, we're going to continue on with qualifications. Now, important element here, experience refers to paid and unpaid experience. So what they're saying is if you could have worked and been paid, or if you volunteered for and have voluntary work that aligns with this job itself, you can actually utilize non-paid work experience as experience itself and qualify for the job itself. And if you read the qualifications, if you go like the third or fourth line down, it says volunteer work, helps build critical competencies, knowledge, and skills, and can provide valuable training. And this translates directly to paid employment. So they're pretty much saying, if you have volunteer experience doing something somewhere that aligns with some of the specialized experience they're looking for, please document it. When you go to the experience part of the resume builder, you can actually put in that volunteer experience just like you would regular experience. So it's giving you the opportunity to use any kind of volunteer work that aligns with the job itself and utilize that to your benefit as you go through this process. The next section is time and grade requirement. Again, this is an applicant who may be in the federal government. They have to meet certain time and grade requirements, and it spells it out for you. Time and grade, the areas of considerations, time after competitive appointments. They give you where you can look for this information, where you can get this information, but here's the requirements. They're giving you everything that you need to know up front in the job announcement as you go through this process of looking to build a more efficient and effective resume. Next slide. Now, how you'll be evaluating. This is one of the areas I always tell people I missed when I first went in here, but I tell people anytime I do this presentation, please look right here, because they're telling you pretty much what you need to, how you're going to be looked at, how your document is going to be looked at, what they're going to be grading you on as you go through this process. And they have said you will be evaluated based on how you meet the qualifications listed in this vacancy. These qualifications will be evaluated based on your resume and the responses you provide in the occupational questionnaire. So they're pretty much laying it out for you. Here's what we need you to talk about in your resume. And one of the things, they're going to give you some of the core competencies as you're talking, as you're crafting, as you're development. You want to show how you are accountable, as you do, that you meet deadlines and commitments, mathematical reasoning. Do you have the skills to do the job well? Do you have the analytical part of it, the technical part? What kind of skill sets have you done to track, evaluate, and do things like that? Attention to detail. I know in budget, you have to be attention to detail. How accurate? Do you review and check for accuracy and things like that? Customer service, again, how do you deal with customers, internal and external? How do you deal with those people when it comes to talking to them, interacting with them, and your decision-making? How do you do that? So as you build, you're developing your resume. These are the key things they want you to be able to talk about, showcase to them in that targeted resume to this job itself. Next slide. Again, how you're going to be evaluated. They're pretty much telling you. They're saying this is what you have to do. Now, one thing I always want to refer people to, and the next slide is going to show you something that I want everybody to take away from me. Overstating your qualifications or experience in your job announcement, in your document, may result in you being removed for consideration. Okay, this is an important element to remember, because we've been told many times, I was told, and probably many of you out there have been told, when you're in the occupational questionnaire, you always want to put the I'm an expert, I'm an expert, I'm an expert, I'm an expert. Next slide. The problem is they just told you if you continue to overstate something that you can be removed from consideration. So here's a question from the occupational questionnaire. They're asking you, how have you ever extracted and manipulated financial information from an automated database systems in order to measure trends over a given time? Now, it's pretty much saying, okay, have you done this? Most people say, go down to marquee. Now you marquee, now you submit your application to this job and you continue to say marquee, marquee, marquee in all the questions. I think there was 15 questions that you had to answer. If you mark E in all these questions that you're an expert, but then you get your resume and you're barely able to, maybe you're just at the beginning of your career, you can't even come close to doing any of these things. They can remove you from consideration just because you continually marked, I've been an expert, but you have not shown that you're an expert in your resume. So when you answer these questions and you're developing your questions and you're going through this process, you need to make sure that you're providing If you're an expert, you showcase that your expertise in your resume. Next slide. So required documents is pretty much going to go here and tell you what you need to actually utilize and submit when you are actually applying for this job. Pretty clear, it's concise, it tells you what you need to do, how you need to do. Again, it talks about paid and non-paid work experience. So again, you need to make sure that you're including all the required documents when you are applying for this position. And it pretty much tells you failure to submit the documents, you may lose consideration because they're not going to call you to see if you have those documents. They say load them. If they're not there when you apply, then you've now lost your ability to be considered for the opportunity in this budget analyst position. Next slide. So again, that was the job announcement. I do apologize if it's a little quick, but kind of want to get to the resume content. And this is an important aspect because again, what we're going to do is go back and remember the areas that you're going to use to build your resume are going to be your duties. The duty section is listed the duties that you will be performing and making sure if you've done those duties, make sure they're on your resume. The requirements, pretty much going through that, here's the job requirements. Do you meet these requirements for eligibility? The qualifications, again, do you qualify with the specialized experience? And again, that occupational questionnaire that's going to go and say, if you're saying you're an expert, show me. That's the key thing. If you're going to say I'm an expert, be able to back up what you say you're able to do when you come into the job. Because when I talked about earlier, they want you to show immediate results. Yes, I did it. This is how I did it. Here's the results I produced based on this information. Next slide. So some of the things that you can go back to and look at when preparing for your resume, your job descriptions, again, your transcripts. If you've ever been in the military honors, I always tell my veterans, look at your awards packages. That's pretty much how they want you to write your resume. This is how I did this, and here's the results I produced. Any customer acknowledgement, survey results, all this stuff can lead to helping you build a more efficient and effective resume. And again, volunteer experience carries the same weight as non-paid work as does paid experience. If you've done it for a period of time, you were committing a lot of time to it, utilize that volunteer experience to your benefit. Next slide. Detailed accomplishments. Again, who was impacted? Quantify whenever possible. Use figures, statistics, information, how you increase something, how you decrease something. Standard operating procedures, how you develop those. How did you exceed deadlines? Any awards and decorations you received for outstanding work? And what did you change or improve in your work environment? And I go back to this thing. Go back and think of this when you've been in jobs and you've done things. What was your legacy when you left? What did you leave there? What did you put in place? How did you make a significant difference when you did that? So it's just going back and understanding the key little things to make sure you talk about and you bring to the forefront when you're crafting and developing that resume. Next slide. How to best present your experience. Now, here's one of the things that I say when you go to a two-page resume and a more detailed resume, the amount of experience, you may say, I managed an 8-person team over 15 years, then you stop right there. Well, that's not enough. What they want to do is actually take that extra step and kind of go with something like, I memorized these, excuse me, maybe that you're a top performing recruiting and sales team who directed 7 direct reports and 50 indirect reports, increased the productivity standards, enhanced productivity, and increase the applicant pipeline over by 8% over a 3-year time span. That's kind of what they're looking for. And don't worry, there are other examples that you can actually look at. But you want to take that step to showcase not just that you did this, but what if you managed an 8-person team over 15 years, what resulted from you managing that team? So that's just one of those things that you want to make sure that you're incorporating when you're talking about what you did, how you did it, and the results that you produce. Next slide. And here's an example, kind of going back over this stuff you're pretty much reading this. Many resumes may read like this: responsible for planning, executing, coordinating special operations, served as a primary instructor for all new soldiers and trainers. Okay, great. It's a great little bullet, but it doesn't tell you, it doesn't go into detail of what you did, how you did, and the final results. And if you look at the after, developed, executed numerous sensitive and realistic training courses, 1,500 personnel annually, rated as the #1 instructor over 20 peers. It gives number, it's quantifying the event. That's what you want to do. You want to quantify events when possible. If you can give numbers, if you can give statistics, if you can give a percentage, money saved, how you save time, it's going to make a difference when you are actually applying and making sure you are targeting and answering their questions about your knowledge, your skills, and ability as it is applicable to the job you're applying for. Again, some more just some more examples of how you can actually write out what you've done. Project analysis, coordination. Again, it just gives you something a little bit more concrete that you can go on. And I know many of you out there, I always tell people, you just have to sit down and actually think about what you've done, how you've done some things, and how you can really create that resume that's going to target and make you that best qualified applicant as you go through this process. Next slide. Now we're going to go into the nuts and bolts here, what I wanted to talk about. Now, one of the first steps, I always tell people, you want to make sure you're reviewing the information. So you're going to go back and look at the qualifications. Again, this was a 9/11 position. So what you wanted to do is you wanted to take that information that was in this job announcement. You want to start breaking it down. And what I mean breaking it down, you want to start looking at formulating budget estimates. You take out and actually put them in alignment so that you can actually see each one of the bullets in itself. And what I mean, next page, is you want to kind of align the information like this so that you can actually see it more clearly. This is what you have to talk about, along with the information from the occupational questionnaire. This is the information where you want to really start to hone in on and show your experience, what you did, how you did it, and your results. This is where you start targeting what you did to what they need in their organization. So what I've done is just highlight it. Next slide. And for this one, kind of just shrunk it again, just going to work on the GS9 position. You must have at least 1 year specialized experience, and they give you what a 7 did in the federal sector. So what you're taking, all those skill sets, all those knowledges that they're looking for, and you're actually just breaking it down. So in the verification of report section, next slide. Next slide. I'm sorry, I kind of went quicker and didn't say it. Back one, back one. One more. Go back one more. Right there. We're on step 3. One more slide up. There we go. So as you go through the specialized experience requirement, it says for a GS9, you must have 1 year specialized experience equivalent to a GS7. So what we're doing, all that stuff that we had highlighted in red, all we're going to do is actually say, okay, in the verification of reports against source documents, I'm going to answer how I accomplished tasks in that area. Like right here, annually verified over 500 financial documents and identified weak internal controls and accounting procedures. So you're quantifying what you've done. Then another one, created a new standard operating procedure, a new task. This is something that you did that impacted and resulted in a 10% decrease in errors and saved money some way. So that's what you're going to do with each one of these elements. You're going to talk about how I did it, at the level I did it, and the results I produced. And you're going to go through and you're going to do this with every one of these tasks that you are applying under. You're going to go back to any experience you had in the past, and you're going to do the same thing. Now, one thing I want everybody to understand here, I didn't say it was going to take an hour. This is going to take some time and some commitment from you to actually go through and actually do this. So I would actually honestly tell you, take some time to do this. It will bring the results you want if you just take the time to go through and take piece by piece by piece by piece. Next slide. So again, you're going to repeat each step. Like I said, and what I always say is a 2-part answer. two-part answer. Yes, I did it. Here's the results I produced. Yes, I did it. Here's the results I produced. Two-part answer, and you're going to just take some time to answer the questions because you're doing a targeted resume. You're targeting the specific requirements for this job. Now, also, you have to look at all successful applicants will be assessed on the following competencies, and they talked about those. There's your technical ability, your accountability, your reasoning, attention to detail, customer service, decision making, and that doesn't have to be anything separate. What you can do is actually say, how were you accountable to somebody? Your technical skills is, yes, I verified these documents. The accountability is, I'm accountable for this, maybe this program. Mathematical reasoning, okay, use standard operating procedures that produce a save money. Customer attention to detail, again, accounting. When you're in the budget analyst arena, your attention to detail has to be applicable. And I mean, it just has to be spot on. So it's just, you want to integrate those elements into your job announcement itself. And again, when we have the breakout room, kind of go in a little bit more detail of what I mean and how you can actually utilize these different elements in your resume to answer the questions on your resume. Next slide. Right now, we're going to talk about the resume builder, and I think we're right on time to get through this and enough time, don't have to rush. This is a key component to you building your resume. You can, again, upload up to 5 different resumes. I actually have 5 resumes in my USAJobs account currently. One of the things is that once you apply with the resume that you have in the resume builder and you want to change that out, once you apply to a job and that resume has gone with it, you're good to go back and delete any other resumes that you use as you go through this. So once you apply to a job and you want to change a resume that you may have in your resume builder, you can do that because that resume is now attached to the job in that agency's talent acquisition system. And you don't have to worry about it disappearing or being changed as you go through here. So your resume builder, it provides you a template to put information in, input all the information you need about your jobs that you're looking for. Next page. First element that you're going to see when you're going to resume builder is your work experience. And you want to make sure that you put in certain elements. One of the things that will happen if you're going through and you're filling out a job and you try to turn the page and everything, it's not input, it will actually indicate these red elements. And one of the key areas that I always tell people, make sure you put the end date and year, and the average hours per week, because average hours per week is an important element. Because to meet a 1 year specialized experience, you have to be working at full time, like 40 hours a week. If you're applying for a job and it says 1 year specialized experience and you're only working 20 hours a week, you will not qualify for that job because part-time, that 20 hours does not give you the acquired time necessary to be deemed a full-time job and meet that 1 year specialized experience. But again, it will tell you to put in this information. You're going to fill that out. Next slide. Your work experience, again, it goes to resume builder, it puts in the information, and here's where you'll indicate all your qualifications. You're going to put that information, you're going to bullet your information, or you can paragraph the information. That's a personal choice of how you want to input the information. So it gives you the ability to put that information. There's a limit kind of like a Twitter, that you can only go to a certain number, but once you reach that number, you can actually go into the continued section of resume builder and finish off any kind of job announcement if you did not have enough room there. Next slide. Volunteer work and volunteer experience, you put in just like you would any other kind of experience. You want to make sure that you put the information in there, include what you did, how you did, results you produced in the section down here at the bottom. And once you do that, you want to hit save and continue forward. Education, kind of the same element. You're going to put the information in there. Once you put the information in there, you're going to save and you're going to move to the next section. Any job-related training or special skills that you think are important to include, you want to include that information. If you have any certifications, any kind of coursework you did, or any kind of, I say, project management skill sets that you have, you want to include that information when you're in there. Once you've done that, you're going to hit the save the job and continue forward. additional information. This is where you could put any kind of awards, decoration, leadership activities. And it kind of gives you an idea right here of where to put that, what you can put in that information. Once that's in there, you're going to click on that, hit save, and continue on forward. And any other qualifications, job-related trainings that you have, language skills, any organizations or affiliations that you want, personal publications. And this is the area additional information that if you can't add, all your information will not fit in a work experience or volunteer work experience because you've used up all the space. You can come here, cut and paste. I always tell people, cut the job title that you're looking to add here and continue on with inputting the information. Once you're done, you're going to hit finish, and you can actually go back in now and hit print, and you can actually show your resume builder. It will show you what it looks like so that you can kind of look at this point. If you want to cut and paste it and move, put it into a Word document, you can do that. And now you can manipulate it in a Word document and kind of rearrange it to the way you see fit. Cover letters, it's an optional. If you're going to write two paragraphs, 3 to 5 sentences, you want to specific highlight your skills that you have, and use compelling language when you're going through it. Because you're applying as a military spouse on the non-competitive hiring authority, you want to make sure that's included in that cover letter also. But again, a cover letter is not required, it is an option. And I always say, if you want to use it, make sure you're using it to your betterment, not to your detriment. Right here, we provided references of federal occupations of college major. That's on USAJobs. That if you have a college degree, you can go to USAJobs, and it will actually list some of the majors that you have and what major and what occupation it could fall on. The Handbook of Occupational Groups and Family, it is a book that we use that actually will provide you all the occupations within the federal government and kind of give you a breakdown of what's in each one of those areas. The non-competitive appointment of certain military spouses, that's the executive order and the codified regulation that we go by. And if you want to look at that, you can actually click on this and it will go there. And writing an effective resume, there's a tool that we use that on our Feds Hire Vet site, you can click on it and it will actually populate a resume builder, a resume script that you can actually use when you're looking to build your resume. And I think I just made, so real quick, a quick summary of this. When you're going through and building your resume, remember the JOA, understand the requirement, assess your skills, and make sure this is a job you want to. You want to pay close attention to any and all instructions they have going through this. Tailor your resume to the job. Have somebody review your resume to make sure you got the correct spelling. And if it doesn't make sense to them, it probably is not going to make sense to the HR specialist. And apply early, because some of the JOAs that you have out there may limit the number of applications accepted and making sure you hit the cutoff dates. So again, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to come out and listen today. We have another session later this afternoon, and if you have those questions, please come. So right now, what we're going to do is break for 5 minutes. And if you could please be back at 11:40, Mr. Sean King is going to go into the presentation for navigating USAJobs. And again, thank you guys for taking the time to come out today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deshaun King. I'm with the Office of Personnel Management. Here I am a senior HR practitioner. I work on our outreach team. I have many years in federal HR. Additionally, I am a disabled veteran, so I kind of, can appreciate your position as a military spouse. Folks, I am going to get started because I'm about to jam an hour-and-a-half session into about 40 or 45 minutes. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. And when I do, I'm going to turn my camera off because I have to look this way at my screen. If you have questions about what I'm talking about today, please log on in the afternoon for the OPM session, because myself and 2 other colleagues will be there to help you kind of navigate through the questions about the resume, finding these opportunities, applying for them, and any additional questions that you have about the hiring authority itself. So now on that note, I am going to share my screen and please forgive me for speaking fast, because I want to get through as much as possible. I am going to omit a part of my routine session, and that is how to create your account, because you'll have access to a document in a chat box that's login.gov, and it tells you how to create your account. And the system is very user-friendly. So if I can navigate it without any assistance, anybody can. So use that login.gov document, and also the system literally walks you through the process with setting up your account. There are certain things about your account that I will talk about on the USAJobs website. But again, I'm going to give you a high-level overview, but I want to get through the actual application process as well. So on that note, I am going to stop my video and I am going to get started. So folks, what you have here, what you have here is the actual USAJobs website, in which, again, I am going to navigate for a live demonstration, because I found out over the years during this particular session, instead of going through like 60 some odd slides, it's a lot easier for people to understand when they can visually get a visual on exactly how this process works. So here what we have is the USAJobs what we call the landing page. This is the home page for USAJobs. I'm going to point out some things that you might want to kind of navigate through on your own time. One thing is the help center. So if you click on help, any information you need, just about any information you need about the federal hiring process, resume, what you need to include in your resume, the military spouse hiring authority, you could just basically type in, I'll just type in resume since Adrian just did a fantastic job on that. Any information that you need about the resume, we have information here for you. Perhaps you want to know about the military, well, I'll just, bear with me. I know that's incorrect, but you could type in military spouse. It provides you with information about the military spouse authority, information about overseas employees, all kinds of information that you need. Now, if you've not been in the federal sector, we also have a glossary of terms. So we use terms like the competitive status and, career appointment, things like that. If you have questions about what many of those terms are, we have a glossary of terms for you as well. You can only get to the glossary of terms though, folks, if you are in the help center. Okay, so if you're on USAJobs homepage, you're not going to see the glossary. So again, utilize that help center. It has a wealth of information there for you. Do want to point out as well. Oh, let me say this. My team, like I said, I work on a recruitment policy and outreach team. And so we also conduct information sessions on resume writing, interview techniques, and navigating the USAJobs website. We're going to pick those back up next month. So they're not in our event section as yet, but folks, take advantage of the event section that's on USAJobs, because there are times where, other agencies may have, well, you can see here, there's a job fair in Illinois today. And so you'll have information there in addition to our free information session. So just come back, in about a week or two, you'll see information sessions that are out there. They're free. You just have to register, and you can participate in as many as you'd like. If you can't recall information about the military spouse hiring authority, just click on that tab in the middle of the page, and it provides you with the eligibility criteria. How do you know if a job is open to a military spouse? And I'll show you that again a little later. And the documents that you would need in order to prove your military spouse, your eligibility for this hiring authority. So folks, again, USAJobs is a wealth of information for you. You just have to take the time and kind of play with the system, navigate through it, and see what's out there and available to you. Same thing, the other hiring authorities that are available to hiring managers, if they choose to use them, are here in the middle of the page. And again, if you think you fall into any of these categories, so while you may be a military spouse, you may be eligible as an individual with a disability. So you can apply for those jobs if you meet the criteria. And again, just click on the tab. Look at what the eligibility criteria are, and find out what documents you need in order to apply for a job as an individual with a disability. So don't just look for those military spouse positions, look for all those positions that you may be eligible for, folks, okay? So now for demonstration purposes, I have created this account. It's called Test. So my name today is Test. Okay, and so I am going to go to my dashboard. This is called your dashboard. So when you log into your account, this is the page that you're going to come upon. And so you'll see where the number 10 applications is kind of grayish color, is real light. That's the page that you're on. So if you click over to the next one, saved jobs, you'll notice that the color, it grays out, okay, in your saved searches. I'll talk about these two once I pull up a job announcement. So as you come to your account, folks, this is very important, okay? You'll see the jobs that you have applied for. Now, in your account, you'll see they're different color ovals. So this one is yellow. These ovals indicate the status of the job, not necessarily the status of your application, but where the agency is in processing that particular job. So they are reviewing applications. And I have saved certain jobs in this account just so I can demonstrate the different status that you may see on the job. So where it is grayed out, it says the hiring is complete. If it is red, that means that the agency canceled that job announcement. But so what? Okay, well, the job, if they're still reviewing applications, I want to know where my application is in the process. Okay, so then that's when you come over to where you see application status. And again, as I use this dummy account, I try to have different go through certain parts of the application process so that you can see different statuses of your application. So if you look down here, administrative program assistant, I did not submit my application. I started it, but I did not finish it. So it's going to let me know what the application of my status, the status of my actual application is. But let's look at the one that's above it, this student trainee. I applied on August 11th. So if you want to know exactly where your application is, click on track this application. And it's going to tell you exactly where your application is in the process. Again, this is different from the job status and the application status. So you look up here at the very top, it says application package status received. Okay, then as you drop down, you'll see that all of your documents were processed. Okay, that's the status of your documents. And so they should have sent me an email. So if you're not sure, if you've not seen an email, or you just want to know what the email said, you could click on that email. Let me show you what I did again. Application received, okay, student trainee. This is to acknowledge the receipt of your application. You will receive emails as to the status of your application during the process. So they have not finished with this application, okay? So they just let me know they have my application. So I want to kind of go to a different one where if you were not qualified for the job, they will let you know you were not qualified for this position or you were ineligible. And speaking of eligibility, I'll talk about that when I pull up a job announcement, because people get eligibility and qualifications a little mixed up. So I want to make sure to clarify that for you. But again, folks, track your application in live time by using Track This Application. This is a fairly new feature for the USAJobs website. Now, as you begin to set up your accounts, if you have not done so, I'm just going to go through this really quickly. You have your profile where you set up, your demographics, citizenship, and what have you. Folks, I want to let you know that most jobs in the U.S. government, federal government, require that you have citizenship. Most of them. If they do not require citizenship, it will let you know in the requirement section of the job announcement. If you are if you're looking for those student opportunities that fall under the Pathways umbrellas, you do not have to be a citizen in order to be eligible. However, upon being converted to that term or permanent position after you completed the requirements for the Pathways program, you will have to be a U.S. citizen. Okay. I know there are different, some folks may have questions about, green card and what have you. Can't really cover that just yet. Because again, I'm just trying to get through the application process. So hiring pass, this is optional. Notice that as you're navigating this website, even with your resume, if we ask you for information, it is required unless you see the word optional. So even with the resume builder, you have to provide the information unless it says it is optional. I noticed that Adrian talked about that cover letter. Now, yes, cover letters are typically optional. But I go on USAJobs just to see what agencies are doing with their job announcements. I have seen where some agencies require you with your applications to read the job announcement, understand what the requirements are, look at the required document section, and I'll show you where that is on the job announcement. But make sure that you are careful in ensuring that you include all of the pertinent and all of the required documents as you apply for the job. So hiring paths. You can, all of this information, you can edit it, folks, okay? So right now for this account, you know, I fall on a Native American, individual with a disability, I'm a veteran, federal employee, and I am a US citizen. But maybe I want to add military spouse, okay? I don't belong to any of these groups. So you can always go in and add a group that you like to be considered for, and then just save it, okay? You can always go back in and delete any of them. So again, like I said, the system is very user-friendly. The profile is pretty self-explanatory. And again, I just encourage you to go through, make sure that you fill out all of this information so that you're ready to apply for these jobs. Now in the document section, Adrian talked about the resume builder. Folks, I encourage you to use the resume builder for at least one of your resumes because two reasons. One of the reasons is that there are some agencies that will not allow you to use your uploaded resume. So you don't want to start applying for a job and then realize, oh my goodness, I don't have a built resume in the system. And now I have to do this job closes today. We get anxious, we get nervous, and we start doing things hastily and we make mistakes. So try to go ahead and get that information in the system, upload your resume and use the resume builder for at least one of your resumes. You have the ability to have up to 5 resumes in the system. That does not mean that you are required to have 5 resumes. Some people have diverse work backgrounds, and so they like to have resumes based on the different types of jobs that they may be applying for. Okay, and I'm not going to go through this whole process, but Adrian pointed out earlier, you know, as you go to create your resume, click on build resume, you're going to provide a name, and I'll just say spouses, okay? And then you hit next. And I just want to show you how easy it is. I know Adrian has screenshots, but I just want to show you how easy this system is to navigate. And so when you're ready to add work experience, you just click on add work experience, and I already have information kind of populated in the system. So we're going to use the information that I have. I'm going to say I work hard, excuse me, as my duties, okay? Notice, folks, that all of this information is required because there's nothing that says optional until, okay, important information here, your start and finish dates are critical. Okay, when you are using this system, because in the federal government, you have to, in order to be qualified for a job, the requirements are going to either be a degree, which not all jobs in the federal government require a degree. In fact, most of them don't. But it may give you the option of qualifying based on your degree and or your experience. And most of the time is 1 year of experience. However, so if we cannot calculate the amount of time that you spent in any position, using certain skill sets, performing certain duties, we cannot give you credit for that job. So with the beauty of this system of using the resume builder, a lot of people don't like the way it looks, but you know, looks are not everything because everybody in the government knows that this is the resume builder resume. So don't worry about how it looks. So let's say I'm going to leave out the end date, okay? And salary, that's optional. Average number of hours you work per week, okay? That's critical too. Can we contact your supervisor? You can say yes or no, contact me first, okay? I'm going to leave this other information. So contact me first, my supervisor, and that's that person's contact information. is this a federal position? No. So I'm going to leave some of that information off just so that you'll see what happens. So if I'm done, I'm going to save it. So what happens is the system says, hey, wait, you omitted some information that's critical here. And so it gives you the opportunity to come back and say, to correct this information. Now, let's say, and why is the average number of hours per week important? So if you work maybe 50 hours a week, just put 40. What we're trying to do is calculate the amount of time that you spent in a position. So let's say, for instance, that your job is part-time. You could put 20 hours a week, but because you work 20 hours a week for 3 years, we can calculate that 1 year, folks. The key is we have to be able to get you to that 1 year. So it doesn't matter that the job was full-time or part-time. As long as we could get you to that 1 year, then you'll be fine. Okay. So I just wanted to clarify that so that you'll know that your part-time work does matter. It's just that you have to ensure that you tell us that the job is part-time and how the average number of hours that you work per week so that we can calculate that information. And now we can save that information. Okay, and so I'm not going to continue going through, you can add your education. Same thing applies to education. If we ask you for some information, we need that information unless it says optional. Okay, so I'm going to say you got a bachelor's degree. Now your completion date is optional. So I'm just going to put a date in there. Okay. And you can include some relevant coursework. Let's say, for instance, that you're still in school and you're applying for an accounting position, but you completed some accounting classes that are related to that job. You may want to list some of them, and that is perfectly okay. And you can include it in this box that's there for you. Your major is optional, GPA is optional. Now, the GPA is usually optional, folks. So again, if you're applying for one of these student positions, maybe an internship position, the agency might want to know what your GPA is. So if they ask you, say that you have to have at least a, 3.0, then you have to provide them with your GPA, and they're probably going to ask you for a copy of your transcript as well. So again, folks, make sure that you just follow the information that's on here and you cannot go wrong. Okay, I'm going to finish. Adrian already went through the other sections of the resume. And so now we have a new resume in the system. Before you apply for a job, folks, and you have these 4 resumes, you're like, oh my goodness, which one am I going to use as I apply for this job? Click on view so that you ensure that you're going to use the correct resume when you apply for the position. Okay. All right. So that's resumes. You can make your resume searchable. It just allows agencies to kind of find you, if you will. There's what we call a resume mining tool that managers have at their disposal. If maybe they're looking for someone who has project management, analytical skill, maybe even data management skills, and you have those key terms in your resume, what'll happen is if you make your resume searchable, then you may get an email saying, hey, Department of Commerce has a job that may, be a good fit for you. And so they'll give you the link that will take you back to USAJobs to apply for the position. It does not, folks, give you a leg up over anyone because you still have to apply for the job just like anybody else. And that job will be listed on the USAJobs website. So now let's go to the other documents. Your other documents can be your military spouse documents, could be, if you're a veteran, your veteran documents, perhaps your performance appraisal, things like that. So you have the ability to have up to 6 documents in the system. So we encourage you to go ahead, upload these documents that you think you may need as you're applying for these jobs. So I have different documents, DD-214, and they're not real documents, as you can see. I just put samples in there. Just a quick, moved over to another screen. Okay. It just provides, you'll see here, once I can slide it over. So I just indicate, that it's for demonstration purposes as I apply for these jobs, but you'll be able to preview your documents. And again, go ahead, upload documents that you think you may need to apply for jobs. Now, as you're uploading these documents, folks, we encourage you, please redact your personal information. That means you're going to take the original, black out your personal information to include your social security number, your date of birth, maybe student identification numbers, and then upload the document in the system. Don't do that to your original. Make a copy and then redact that information and upload it into the system, okay? All right, and it's really easy to upload a document. Just click on upload. It'll take you to, you know, your documents on your computer. You click on it and then you will click upload, name the document, and it's there. All right, very, very easy to use. Okay, so now we go over to preferences. Preferences are used to help you kind of navigate or kind of tailor your job search to maybe full-time, part-time, are you willing to travel, all of those types of things, and you can save your preferences. And again, folks, you can always go ahead and change these preferences. This is just going to help you with your job search, kind of narrow your search down to those types of jobs that are suitable for you, right? So now we're going to go back home, and don't forget, we have a section in here for saved jobs and also saved searches. So right now, guess what we're going to do? We're going to go back to USAJobs homepage, to that landing page, right? Now, what we're going to do is conduct a search, right? So I am going to search, do a keyword search, and maybe program analyst, and guess what? You can include a location or remote. So this remote feature is a brand new feature of USAJobs. So let's see what's out there for program analyst remote position. Oh, what happened? Wait a minute. We did have some because I just did this earlier. So let's go Washington. Oops. Because I'm using Washington, DC because it's a huge hub for, now I'll type in remote. What happens here? What I want you to pay attention before I hit return, look over to the left side. You'll see these gray boxes. As you indicate certain what we call filters, I didn't want Oregon, I didn't say that. Washington, DC, okay? And in order, the default is within 25 miles of Washington, DC. So you can always change that mileage. Maybe you're okay with driving, 50 miles out of that radius, and that's fine. But I want you to pay attention to the number of jobs. So right now we have 316 jobs that meet the criteria. Program analyst, Washington, DC, okay? We have 316 jobs. So now I'm going to type in remote. Well, why does Oregon still pop up? I don't understand. Well, all systems are not 100% because guess what? Human beings are behind them and sometimes they are flawed. So we're going to go with what we have right now. So I want you to pay attention, 316 jobs. So guess what? Well, do I really want to look through 316 jobs? Not necessarily. I'm okay with the jobs within the DC area, but I want to look for those jobs that are open to, guess what? Military spouses, right? So we're going to click on military spouse and notice the emblem that's for, that symbolizes military spouses. If you look at this second program analyst position, this one is open to military spouses that are eligible for that particular hiring authority. Maybe you are a veteran. Okay, this job is also open to current or former federal employees. So these are different symbols that align with the filters that you see over here to the right. Okay, so we want to look for those jobs that are open to military spouses. Notice that number dropped down from 316 to 105. But I want to caution you folks, you don't have to only look for jobs that are open to military spouses. If you meet any of the other eligibility criteria, I encourage you to open your search a little bit wider. But because this is a military spouse event, we're going to narrow our search down to those positions. And let's say you are not, you're not familiar with the federal government pay scale. So you can put in a salary range that you're looking for, okay? Let's look for jobs that are open $36,000 up to $78,000, okay? And I want you to pay attention. Notice that number changed again. We're at 26 jobs. So as you use these filters, folks, that number changes. I always kind of discourage people from using the agency feature, because let's say that you only want to work for DoD, Department of Defense, and you click on Department of Defense. Remember, we're looking for a program analyst position. Now we're down to 4 jobs. So you've kind of knocked yourself out of the running for other agencies. So sure, you can look for those jobs that are in a specific agency, but kind of open it back up again just to see what may be open at other agencies like Department of Veterans Affairs and Homeland Security have program analyst positions, and they could be a block away from one another. So be careful about using this agency feature. You can use it, but I always encourage people, go back and open it up and see what's available at other agencies as well, okay? So we have other features that you can use. Remember, we talked about the mileage. Maybe you don't mind driving 60 miles, so it jumped up to 27 jobs. And so notice you can exclude remote jobs, only show remote jobs. So again, folks, pretty user-friendly system. You can put in whatever filters you like. So we're gonna go with what we have right here, okay? So right now, we have military spouse, Washington, D.C., within 60 miles of DC, and we're looking for a program analyst position. Now, let's say these are the types of jobs I want to look for every time I go on USAJobs. What you can do so that you don't have to remember the search criteria that you put in, you know what, I'm going to put in a couple of more because I just want to show you how this works. Occasional travel, we can do that, okay? And so I just included a few more filters just because I just want you to see how this works. So I'm okay with finding jobs with the program analyst that meet all of this search criteria. But what if I'm not going to remember all of this every time I come back to the website? Well, guess what, folks? You click on Save This Search and you name it. Okay, I'm gonna name this one program analyst because I might look for a management analyst, or I might look for a human resources specialist position. And so I'm gonna name this one program analyst, if I can type. And you can receive notifications based on the criteria. So you don't have to receive notifications, or you can receive notifications when jobs that meet the criteria that you have up here in gray. Okay, anytime those jobs populate on the USAJobs website, you can receive notification of their posting. I'm going to put never right now because I already receive a lot of notifications. And so you click on save. Now, oops. Oh, okay. Well, I already have one. I'm going to say program analyst 1. You know what? Spouses. Okay. Spouses. Okay. So I'm going to save this. Now, where did that go to? Remember, in your account, saved searches. See, my program analyst spouses search. So you could just come back to your account, open up your account, go to save searches. And what you can do, folks, is view the results. And it takes you back to the USAJobs page, and it lists all the jobs that meet that criteria without you going back to select them all. All right. So remember that saved job. So let's go to this job here, program analyst. And let's say we're on a 5-minute break and I'm scrolling through this job. Wow, this looks like something I'm really interested in. I don't really have time to look at this job and to review it. How in the world am I going to find this when I come back? I really want to save this job. Well, you come over to the right where it says save with the star. Click on save. Guess what, folks? Go back to your account and click on save job, and it's there in your account. All right. So now let's say that if you've already read the announcement, but you didn't have time to apply for it, you can click on apply. But we're going to read the job announcement because we really didn't read it. So we want to make sure that this is something that we're eligible for first. So remember, I told you I was going to tell you about eligibility versus qualifications. So eligibility is this box that you see here that says this job is open to. If you meet any one of the criteria, if you fall into any one of these categories, folks, you are eligible to apply for this job. Okay, so we're talking about military spouses. Okay, Individuals with disability, federal employees, all of these folks are eligible to apply for a job. So if you apply for a job and maybe you apply for one as a military spouse and it did not indicate military spouse and you submit your documents and what have you, you may receive notification of ineligibility. Not necessarily that you're not qualified, but you did not meet the criteria or you didn't fall into any one of these categories. All right. So be cognizant of that when you are applying for jobs. And I want you to pay attention to the open and closing date. This job closes on October 31st, 2022. So you have until then, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our jobs close on Eastern Standard Time, folks. So it closes at the closing date at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. So pay attention to the pay grades. They'll tell you the salary. Okay. Salary range is here. Why is it such a vast range with this salary? Well, because this is what we call a career ladder position or multi-grade position. It's a GS-12 up to a GS-13. Okay. The promotion potential, if you scroll down, let me scroll down for you. You'll see here, promotion potential is GS-13. So that's the highest you can go in this particular grade job. If I have time at the end, I'll show you the GS pay scale. But basically, the salary range is the bottom, the entry level at the GS-12. So we have steps. And again, I'm hoping I'll have time to show you a pay scale so you can understand. But it's the entry level at the GS-12 and the highest level at the GS-13, okay, based on our current pay scale. So at the GS-12, step 1, you'll earn this amount of money, 68 plus, and then you at the top end of this job is a little over $105,000 a year, okay? This is a remote position. So pay attention to all the information, folks, that you see on the job announcement. You know, some people get frustrated with reading them, but if you don't read and pay attention and follow the instructions, folks, you may knock yourself out of the competition. Required documents. I want you to pay attention to this. All right. Required documents. This one, you only need a resume, but if you are applying using certain hiring authorities, then there are other documents that you may have to include with your resume. Okay, so please pay attention to the required documents section. I am going to apply for this job so that you can see how it works. Okay, and I want you to pay attention to the duties section. Okay, talks about the work schedule and what have you. Conditions of employment is important because while most jobs in the federal government don't require, there's not an age limit. There are some that have, like our police officers, maybe our pilots, and certain careers that you have to, you can't be over a certain age when you come into that position. Also, gender matters in our federal prisons. So if that is a condition of employment, it will tell you that in the job announcement, okay? Then we talk about qualifications. Adrian has already gone through that with the resume, and so I'm not going to belabor that point, but make sure that you, as you apply for these jobs, that you pay attention to the specialized experience. Now, when we apply for this job, it's going to ask, well, I'll wait until we apply for the job. So let's say we've already read this job, you know, it looks like a good job for us. So we are going to apply for this position. Okay, we're on target. So don't forget, you choose the resume that you want to use. So we're going to use our spouse's resume, of course, but you don't have to. So you can just click on any one that you want to use. All right. And so you're going to scroll down to the bottom and save and continue. Now, oh my goodness, I just forgot all of the documents that I need to supply. So required documents, it's going to tell you the different documents that you need to apply for the job, folks. Okay. So, and this kind of follows you through the first few steps of the application process. And I also want to point out up here at the top, it lets you know what step you're on. So once this, a number, the circle is colored in, is solid green, it lets you know that you completed that step. There are 6 steps to the process. So now we're going to select our documents. Okay. So we've already selected our resume, so we're going to select our documents as well. So I'm just going to pretend like, you know, we're going to select the documents that I need to submit. Okay, I'm just selecting anything for demonstration purposes. Save and continue. So what you will have done is selected your documents that are related to the military. Folks, well, we're getting through this. This is the right document, and it's going to jump to another screen. So bear with me, folks. I have 3 screens I'm working with. So, yes, there's the right document. So we've gone through all of our documents. And so I am going to acknowledge that I reviewed my documents and everything looks good. And I am going to save and continue. So now we are on step 4, demographic information, excuse me. So if you want to share your demographics, you can, you don't have to, okay? This is not required. This is only for our USAJobs team to use so that they'll know who's applying for our jobs, how they found out about our jobs, things of that nature. We try to ensure that folks, different groups of individuals have access to our jobs and what have you. And so we collect this information so that we're ensuring that we're conducting outreach activities to, military spouses and other groups that may not be aware of our federal opportunities. Okay. Then they ask you, how did you hear about about the job? Look, folks, we're at step 5. Okay. This is your search USAJobs, or I found it through, where are we? So because we don't have it on here, we can say military spouse event, okay? One day I'm gonna learn how to spell or type better. All right, and so, and you could prefer not to answer. And then folks, it does not matter. Nobody in the agency knows whether or not you responded to that. Again, this is only for our USAJobs team. So I certify that everything is true to the best of my knowledge. Now we are going to go to the agency's website, and this is where you are going to complete that questionnaire that Adrian talked about earlier during the resume session. This is just a little demonstration. Everything goes over to the hiring agency's website. Notice at the top that it says your application is incomplete. Know why? Because now we have to go through this questionnaire. So they're going to check, you're going to check, make sure all of your, information is correct here. All of that is good to go. And I'm going to hit continue. Do I claim veterans preference? I'm going to say no for the purpose of time. Well, you know what? I'm going to say, 2-point preference. Okay. Because I'm going to show you how I need to submit my documents. So I'm going to pretend like I hit the military spouse, okay? But am I currently employed by the VA? No. I'm going to scan through this, folks, because my time is getting really, really tight and I want to finish. Are you a former employee of Department of Veterans Affairs? We're going to say no. Are you a veteran separated from? Yes, I am. Honorable conditions. Or are you 30%? Yes, okay, I got that. Were you employed overseas? Nope. Or let's see, are you the spouse of a member? And see, this is where you would say yes, folks, okay? Are you the spouse? So let's say yes for this, and I'm gonna take my veteran information out. Let's go with that. And we're gonna stick with military spouse. Are you currently employed by the VA? No, okay, so now, are you a veteran? We're going to say, no, we're not a veteran. Okay, we're going to stick with military spouse. And so, are you the spouse of a member? And it asks you all that good stuff. Yes, I am. Are you currently a federal employee displaced? Nope. Have you completed at least 1 year? No, we didn't do foreign service. So that's no. I kind of know what these questions are with just scanning them. So I'm going to click no, because we're going to stick to military spouse. No, no land management. Are you Peace Corps? No, we're not Peace Corps. So now you have all of these questions, folks, because remember in the eligibility section, this job is open to, was open to a lot of different groups of individuals. So you're gonna have to go through this, okay? No, I'm not this person. Do you have a disability? So no, I'm not applying under the Schedule A authority. Nope, I'm not this. Nope, I'm not that. Nope, not a vet. And so again, they ask all of these questions because of that section that says this job is open to. Based on responses, you'll be required to attach the following supporting documents. Notice how they tell you this is the information that you need to submit, okay? So proof of marriage, I'll have to keep that in mind. So this is important for these multi-graded position, folks. What is the lowest grade you are willing to accept? So a lot of times people will say, hey, you know what? I'm qualified at the higher grade level. And that might be the case. But oftentimes I have seen people who may be qualified for the higher grade who have not written their resume in such a manner to determine, for us to determine that they were in fact qualified, one of the best qualified candidates at that higher grade level. So if you say that you're willing to, the lowest grade you're willing to accept is this GS 13, they will not consider you for the 12. Okay, and you're perfectly within your rights to do that, but make sure that you address the qualification requirements for that job, because if you do not fall into the best qualified category at the 13 level, and perhaps you were one of the best qualified at the 12 level, but you selected 13 here, they will not consider you for the 12. Okay, but if you say the lowest grade I'm willing to accept is the 12, then what'll happen is if you are one of the best qualified for the 12, then they will consider you for the 12. Then they'll look at your application for the 13 as well. And so if you're one of the best qualified and one of the best qualified at each grade level, your name will be submitted to the hiring manager, indicated that you are one of the best qualified at both grade levels. Okay. So the manager has the choice to, has the discretion to select at whichever grade level they prefer to hire at. So are you a political appointee? No. So now we're going through this questionnaire, okay? Not a political appointee. All right, so now here's your assessment. Folks, it's important for you to read the instructions, because a lot of times they may ask, sometimes they'll ask you for the one response that best describes your experience, or they may ask you to choose more than one. So for the GS-12, I have at least 1 year. For the GS-13, I have at least 1 year that's asking you about that specialized experience, okay? And you know what? I should go back. Let me go back, because we're running out of time, and so I don't want to. So I'm going to say the lowest I'm willing to accept is the 13, because I don't want to answer questions about the GS-12 too. But I just wanted them to let you know that they will not ask me questions about the GS-12 level. Excuse me. They won't consider me for the GS-12. So I have 1 year. I have 1 year. Okay. For the 12, do you possess at least 1 year specialized experience? Yes. And why is it asking me about the 13? So that the 12, it doesn't make sense. But anyway, I certified to the best of my knowledge. Okay. All of this information is true. Okay. Oh, this one is pretty easy. You have some agencies that have you responded to maybe 12 or 13 questions. This one was really easy. So some of them will have you answering maybe 20 some odd questions. So it just depends on the agency and what the hiring manager is looking for. So this one was in our favor. So notice that these are the documents that are required, folks. And so you come over to the drop-down menu, okay? And I'm just gonna click on spouses. And I know that was my resume, but I'm just for demonstration, okay? So, oops, I'm sorry. Let's do that. Let me take that one out. Why is that saying pending retrieval? Because I did use it. Now I submitted more documents, and I'm gonna show you what happens when you submit it. You include more documents than you actually select. Now, if you're missing a document, you have the ability to go back and find it, okay, and upload it and make it part of your application. Okay, can somebody turn their mute themselves? So I have documents that I have not assigned, okay? And it lets you know that I submitted, I have these other documents, I did not assign them, and I don't have to, okay? I can still continue. So the green check marks let you know that you've completed all of these sections, okay, of the application, submit my application. What time is it? Okay, we're gonna finish on time, folks. So it lets me know. Now this is important. It says application received. View and print your application, folks. Please make sure that you open this information up, print this off, save it on your computer, what have you. Systems are designed by human beings, unless you see all of everything that you submitted. But let's say that an agency did not receive the documents for whatever reason. This document lets you know, demonstrates that you did in fact submit your documents and what date and time. So I had this happen one time when a gentleman had applied for one of my jobs, and for whatever reason, I just never received his documents, and he was able to print off and demonstrate to me that he did apply for the job. He applied on time, and so he was able to bring his documents in person because that was his choice, and so he was able to be considered for that position. So make sure, folks, that you save this information that shows that you actually apply for the job and when. So we're going to go back to USAJobs, okay? And we're going to go back to our applications, and this is the job that we just applied for, the program analyst position, okay, folks? So I just gave you a quick overview. What happens next is that, you know, based on the information that you provide, you will be put into a category, one of the minimally qualified, well qualified, or best qualified. If you are one of the best qualified candidates, your name will be submitted to the hiring manager for further consideration. They may or may not conduct interviews. Typically, agencies will conduct interviews, but you know, it's up to the agency on how they actually conduct, if, when, and how they conduct their interviews. But again, come back to the USAJobs homepage, kind of navigate through the system and see what's there. You know, if you want to know what the federal application process is, we have it outlined for you here. But again, use the Help Center. It really is a good feature for you. And don't forget to go to the event section, maybe in another week or two, where we'll have public sessions where we can actually really take a deep dive into how to navigate the USAJobs website. So again, you know, I do hope I provided you with some information that you found useful, folks. I am going to stop sharing my screen very briefly. If for whatever reason you have additional questions, I'm sure that they will provide you with where you can get additional information. But again, I encourage you to come online this afternoon. In fact, we're going to start, I think, around 1 o'clock after these sessions, kind of give you a break, and you can come back, ask questions that you may have. I appreciate you taking time out for yourself, because it's important for you to take advantage of these free opportunities that we provide to try to help you navigate this process, because we know it can be a little scary at times and a little confusing, and we're here to help you out as much as possible. So I wish you all well. Thank you for allowing your spouses to do their jobs and being there to support them. I'm going to pass this back over to Christine Tomkus, and she's going to take the reins from there. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much for your presentations today. It's been quite a wonderful experience to hear all that great information. We really do appreciate all you spouses joining us for this morning's session today. We hope these best practices regarding federal military spouse hiring preference, resume writing, and navigating the USAJobs application process brings you success as you move forward with applying. Remember, if you do not have all your documents uploaded in the USAJobs, you'll not be considered for military spouse preference, even if you were the most qualified. Federal jobs are competitive, and there's no way around the rules to apply. So really focus on the proper way to do the applications. We're excited to bring you to the next portion of our event, the Career Expo. We are proud and honored to have the following federal departments and agencies make history, uniting together today to serve and support the military spouse community. We'd like to take a time to especially thank all of the participating agencies here today: the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Defense, the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Housing and Urban Development, Department of the Interior, Department of Labor, Department of State, Department of Veterans Affairs, Federal Emergency Management Agency, United States Agency for International Development, Office of Personnel Management, Armed Forces Wellness Centers, and the Navy Exchange Service Command. We thank you for joining forces together today and making this event happen. As First Lady Jill Biden mentioned in her remarks this morning, these agencies are here because they want to hire you. We're really glad that you took your time today to be a part of this presentation. In the chat, you will start to see some agency Zoom room links to access each of the 15 federal agency Zoom rooms, as well as the SECO Career Coach room, where you can have your resume reviewed live during our afternoon session. You were also sent a Career Expo roadmap through your email minutes ago, which you can download and have these links all in one place. This is where you'll be able to access all the federal agencies to network with them today. We apologize for any disruptions in the chat this morning. We intended to have these documents downloaded in the chat, and it appears that the chat is not allowing us to deliver these files to you directly to download. So please copy and paste the links in the chat, or if you want to locate the Career Expo roadmap that you received through your email, the Career Expo roadmap and the Zoom links in the chat are all you'll need to access each agency's Zoom room to directly network with their HR teams and hear presentations on opportunities they have for military spouses. Many of the federal agencies here today will be providing live 20-minute presentations at 1 o'clock, 1:45, 2:30, and 3:15 Eastern Time, followed by a 25-minute Q&A session. The Office of Personnel Management, as they mentioned, will be available to provide additional information and Q&A sessions to support your needs and success with the federal application process in their Career Expo room. Feel free to stop by the Spouse Education and Career Opportunities Program to connect with their career coaches for live resume reviews in their Zoom room today. Use the Career Expo roadmap and federal agency Zoom links in the chat, which are identical. The links that are being sent in the chat are the same links that are on that Career Expo roadmap. So if you do have that roadmap, that is your easiest method to connect with each federal agency independently. If you do not have that document in your email, or if you do not see it in your email, double check your spam folder, or please copy and save the links that we're putting into the chat today. You're not going to need to register for these Zoom rooms. They're all live links that will take you directly into their room. We really encourage you to take this time to visit as many agencies as you'd like. We're prepared for spouses to come in and go in and out of our rooms at your leisure. Don't feel bad if you come into a room for a few minutes and then you decide that you want to move on to another room. Just keep in mind those presentation times if you want to hear some more information, but we also want you to be sure to download the slides in each agency room to obtain contact information, session details, and open positions. There's many federal agencies here today that are bringing live jobs to you. So please keep an eye on those opportunities. Take the knowledge and information you received from the sessions this morning to successfully apply to the positions that you're interested in and qualified for. The agencies here today are committed to hiring military spouses. As I mentioned, they have jobs ready for you. Networking is still the #1 way to get a job, so please take full advantage of this opportunity to network with these 15 federal agencies. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this before, and we are so excited to see the incredible support from leadership and from all the federal agencies joining us today. As we transition to our Career Expo session, we'd like to close our morning session with some empowering remarks from the Honorable Gilbert Cisneros, who's the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness. Following his remarks, we will take a break until 1 p.m. Eastern Time, where the Career Expo rooms will be open and our federal agencies will be ready to network with you. Remember, there's 15 of them, along with the Career Coach room with the Spouse Education and Career Opportunities Program. Thank you all again for being here. We wish you the absolute best of luck with your federal job journey, and we hope that you have much success today. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name's Gil Cisneros. Let me first thank all the military spouses in attendance today for investing in your careers in the same way you invest in and support your service members. I also want to say how much I appreciate the federal agencies who have come to this hiring fair. By sharing what you have to offer, you are helping the military community thrive. As the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, I know how crucial it is for our military spouses to find career fulfillment, achieve financial stability, and in the process, build strong relationships. The success of our military is directly related to the strength and stability of our families. And the stability of our families is dependent on military spouses having access to quality employment. Without your support, it would be impossible for us to maintain our troops and ensure our national security. One of the primary challenges among military spouses is to build and maintain a career in a way that you aren't faced with the prospect of starting over with every PCS move. Searching for job opportunities with the federal government is a good place to start as you begin or continue your career journey. Federal jobs offer portability, and employers will often know your specific needs. You may even get preference when you apply for Defense Department civilian jobs. Federal agencies can use the military spouse non-competitive hiring process to fill a position on a temporary or permanent basis. You're eligible if you are the spouse of an active duty service member, of a service member who has incurred 100% disability while on active duty, or a spouse of a service member who was killed while on active duty. You may also be able to take advantage of the Priority Placement Program, which gives preference to military spouses applying for certain Defense Department positions. You can apply through your local civilian personnel or human resources office. The Department's Spouse Education and Career Opportunity website, known as MySECO, is also a valuable resource that provides education and career guidance to military spouses worldwide. Among other things, MySECO allows you as a military spouse to access more than 600,000 employment opportunities provided by our more than 540 military spouse employment partnership employer partners. And don't forget, the DoD provides spouses with career coaches free of charge through the SECO Career Center. Another place to look to find jobs that is right for you is the Military OneSource Managing Your Career, the Essentials page, which among numerous other resources provides help with transferring professional licenses and certifications to another state or country. In closing, I would like to thank you all again for your participation here today. When our military spouses thrive, so does our military and our nation. Thank you very much.